about your experience with the International Relations Club.
All right. Well, I had been in a United Nations club when I was in high school, and when I got to college, I knew that Umass had a team, so I searched it out and I found Dean and got involved, and after 2 years I became the teaching assistant, and I love it. And I love going to conferences and learning, different aspects of international politics from different countries' perspectives, because I really don't think that we have the opportunity to do that very much, even within the classes we take at the university. So it's a very different experience than what you'd normally have.
How about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I think for the most part I heard the word or the place London and decided that I was going to be a part of the International Relations Club. So it's been so much more than I ever thought it would be, and it's meant a lot to me, both in the relationships that I've gained with the people who partake in it from UMass Lowell and all over the world. It's just been such an experience, and it's been great to be able to represent different countries and get a feel for why they stand for what they do.
Yeah, I think London would be a little enticing. Could one of you just kind of give us an explanation of what exactly the club does?
Sure. Basically, we start in the fall semester. We get together, we have meetings, and we choose our countries, and we choose our conferences. And what we do is we go to wherever the conference is being held: the University of Toronto, the University of the London School of Economics, wherever, and then we prepare. We get our country and we really immerse ourselves in preparing to represent that country. Our own opinions really become secondary, and it's more about representing your country and doing a good job representing yourself and really knowing your position.
How many students are in the club?
We've had as many as 30. I think we're down to, 25 this year?
About that, yeah.
What was your country this year?
You guys went to the conference.
I did a Historical Security Council reenactment in Toronto. It was 1945, the San Francisco Conference, where we had to draft the UN Charter, and I represented the former Soviet Union in 1945, going up against most of the Western countries where there was a whole lot of distrust, and it was difficult, especially because you had to, put behind what's going on now with Security Council reform and try to think of what you would do in that situation where there were these 5 countries coming together saying, we're going to give ourselves the veto power, and we don't really care, what the other countries want. We're here first and foremost to maintain peace and stability. So it was very difficult because there are very hardline policies that you really can't deviate from. So it was definitely interesting.
Were you at that conference as well?
I was also at that conference. I was the Russian Federation in modern times. But now what we're really looking forward to is we're preparing to go to New York to the National Conference, which is the week of April 11th, where our delegation is going to be representing mainly Malaysia. However, Danielle and I will be on the Security Council representing the Philippines.
So, okay, so the research you've done is on the Philippines.
Yeah.
What was the most intriguing or shocking thing that you've found in your research?
About the Philippines? Or
I wouldn't say that there was a lot of shocking research. One of the most difficult things I'd say to research was Security Council reform, because we're talking about, moving forward with the United Nations as an international, not only as an international organization body, but really a new way for governments to get together and solve global crises, especially from the Security Council. I mean, that's what they've been doing, but ways to expand, dealing with nations that might not want to give up certain privileges and powers on the Council, and it's very difficult to do that research and find clear-cut political opinions on something as controversial as Security Council reform.
It's easy for smaller countries because obviously they want it, and right now the Security Council is the most it's the executive body, and it's stuck in a power structure that resembles that in 1945 in the pre-Cold War. So what's important is to get representation for Africa and South America and Oceania and areas of the world where a lot of the policies that the UN implements affect the most and have the largest impact on. So I think that's the biggest thing, and it's very difficult because unless, short of dissolving the entire United Nations, you won't see that reform because no P5 is going to give up that hold on the veto.
I think that's one of the great things about attending these Model A conferences is you research and you get a grounding in what's already happened and where your country stands, but then you're really forced to think critically and decide, okay, well, what's the next step? And you have to use sort of your own intuition and your own feelings and craft something new. So you're not just going there and rehashing old facts and putting things together that way, but you're really thinking critically, and that's really one of the things that a lot of the students take out of the models is they're able to think critically and they're able to go into job situations and real world situations and think on their feet and produce things.
And it's not just producing things, but it has a lot to do with interpersonal relationships that you establish, putting the problem aside from the person you're working with, and you have to have really well-established communication skills in order to do that.
How are you assigned a country? Is it, you obviously don't choose, are you?
It is a lot of choice. For the most part, we have a bit of a hierarchy, and depending on how long you've been in the club and what year you are in school, it dictates where you go. I, as a grad student and as a third year, had first choice this year in what country I wanted, and I knew right away from the list of them that I wanted to be the USSR in Security Council because I thought it would be the most challenging, trying to step out of the role of a smaller country, out of the smaller countries. I'd been Tanzania, Cameroon, Iran in a disarmament committee at the London School of Economics, as well as Australia last year in Toronto, where I won an award for representing the country for human rights on the High Commission for Human Rights Committee.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I mean, there is also a bit of a lottery. When we get together in the fall, we discuss which countries we'd like to represent at different conferences and why, and we come up with a provisional list, and then we submit it to whatever conference we're going to, and they'll give us a list of countries and the committees, and we just sort of...
And our club really has a reputation of being one that's very prepared and very good at what we do. So a lot of the conferences we go to, we do get to be the P5 countries, sort of the heavy hitters. Over my 4 years in the club, I represented all 5, the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom. So wow. It's been a real great experience and really kind of run the gamut of international relations and different opinions.
That's great. I'd like to talk a little bit about the High School Model League that you started. Well, you were involved with the initiative. Okay, why don't you explain that?
Well, last year, a few of us that had been in the club for a while, along with our faculty advisors, decided that we have a very dedicated, a very knowledgeable group of students around us, and there's no reason why we couldn't take what we were doing at the college level and bring it to the university at a high school level. And we reached out to, I think last year we had 5 or 6 local high schools that came in, and we simulated a conference at the university. Sort of taking all the lessons that we had learned from our times out on the road and doing things in different places and applied it to a high school level. And I was very impressed at the level, the quality of the high school students and what they were able to do. And as chair of the Security Council last year, I was very impressed, and I had a fabulous time chairing and just watching the high school students come and engage and be active and be just happy at what they were doing. So it's really great to see younger students, high school students, taking an interest in international relations and in international politics.
It's great too because you get to partake in the United Nations in 2 different ways. When we go to the conferences, we're the debaters, and then when we hold the conference, we facilitate the debate as the chairs. And this year I get to chair the Security Council, where we do emergency situations where the kids really have to think on their feet. And, policies by these countries haven't been set forth yet. I'm doing an outbreak of the avian flu, which is, questionable as to whether or not it's going to be a massive worldwide problem. But in this case, we're posing it as one, and we're actually having outbreaks occur, and to see what the students can come up with to hopefully work together as a group to form some sort of substantive resolution without letting